Jackson gave me the news of a planet far away. And Colonel O'Neill will assemble a team that will try to save the day. Dr. Sam has a master plan and a science attitude. And the Jaffa Teal, he's part of the deal with his trusty Goa'uld. It's just a regular day at Stargate Command, and it might be hard to understand.
Chevron 1 encoded. Chevron 2 encoded. Chevron 3 encoded. Chevron 4 encoded. Oh no, this is gonna happen. Chevron 5 encoded. Chevron 6 encoded. Chevron 7 locked. We have a stable world.
Welcome back. I don't have a fun opener. Sorry, didn't think of it. I'm your co-fry, Sarah.
I'm your co-fry, Cristina.
And I'm your co-fry, Wells.
And we're back again. Very consistent. During the week.
Consistent-ish.
During the week. Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, y'all. That was on me this time.
Oh, no. Wow.
That's fine. I wasn't really, I don't know. I had to let it sink in. I took all the notes and everything. So I was like, you know what? Cool. I started watching Resident Alien on Netflix.
Oh, nice.
Hilarious.
Oh, I saw your TikTok.
Fucking hilarious. Alan, what's his name? Alan Tudyk?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hilarious.
From the old
highly
Firefly.
recommend. Yeah, and like a plethora of voice acting. But yeah, if you want some fun sci-fi to watch, hilarious. Definitely recommend. But we are gathered here to talk about a different sci-fi show.
Yes.
We are talking about season 4, episode 18, The Light. Mixed bag. Actually, I think I'm the only one that I kind of hate this episode. I think we talked about it last week when we were talking about what was coming up next. But before we get into that, we'll have like
some of us were more involved in the rave culture than others.
Well, it's like I'll wait. I'll save it.
Save it.
Yeah. But we have like half a fry box to get into today, and then we'll pick up the remainder, the leftover. I don't want to say leftovers, but the remainder of the fry box we're gonna save for the end because it's gonna be a little bit of a heavy topic.
Let's jump in it.
Short, cause we're 3 fry short.
We're here.
Yes.
Wow.
So this is just a reminder for not this coming Friday, but the following Friday, we are doing our special live stream for oh my god, I can't read.
Trans Day.
It's the National Day of Reading.
Oh, okay, yeah.
A celebration of trans stories. And so if you come, do you want me to take it from here, Sarah?
Yes, please.
If you come on Friday, you actually need to go to the Eventbrite that is in our it should be in our link tree and register. It's free, but it is a closed event just to stay safe with
keep the trolls at bay.
Keep the trolls at bay because we will literally be reading trans and non-binary children's books out loud to you. We have a special guest, Erin, who is a young adult librarian in Massachusetts, who's going to be joining us. And so we will all be reading a book. And I'm going to try to get the pictures in so we can flip along in the page. We don't have to hold it up and it's really hard to see in our tiny squares or anything. So it's on it's going to be in I believe, well, it's an unlisted stream right now. So you can't see it on our channel. So just go to the Eventbrite and register if you haven't yet. It's free. We just want to be safe with everything. So I got the NB book that was kind of advertised and it's really cute and I'm so excited to read it to everybody.
Is there a list of book? I need to buy one. Is there a list of books?
Yes, I've got the list that's like part of this official thing, but we don't have to be official. Like we're just participating in the day. So also we could get Erin to give us a bigger list if you would like, so that you have more to choose from.
I have Well, I have the one I ordered, but there's actually two, and I'll touch it. There's one that's like really wonderful for like young kids to really teach acceptance at a very young level. That's in a relatable way. And then the other one I got was more like an indigenous story arc, which I think is really beautiful. So
Yeah. Maybe we'll read more than 4. I don't know. We're just
Yeah.
gonna go with it. We're gonna have a good Friday and read some cute kids books to all of you that want to come. So
I
yeah.
think it's great.
Mara, I am going to break our rule because Mara is asking a question. Oh God, and Aaron liked our story right as I'm talking right now. Mara says, "We release what books you're reading for anyone who might like to track down the books." Yes, Mara, I will try to do that within the next day so that you have time to find them before, because we're looking at a week and a half out now, I think. So
Yeah.
yes, I will release a list, or maybe even an Instagram carousel, so you can see some pictures with those
Fancy.
books or whatever too. Let's get fancy with it.
Why not?
Yeah, I'm excited. I haven't read a kid's book to anybody in a long time, so yeah.
It's been a minute.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Again, we're gonna touch back on this topic again after in like the discussion part, because there's something else that we want to touch on, kind of linking back to some conversation that we had last week.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be a bit more of a heavy topic, trigger warning.
Yeah. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna go ahead and say we are going to mention Sam Nordquist after this episode that we talk about. So
Yeah.
anybody that does know about Sam Nordquist, you know why we are waiting until the
Mhm.
end, and you can opt out of that part of the live stream if you need to. We understand, but it is my words last week came at a very interesting time. Let's put it that way. So
Yeah.
we're going to address it, but we recognize that it's not for everybody to be able to listen to, and we aren't going to go into a ton of detail about it. But I can personally speak to it. So we're going to just hold that off. So
Yeah.
stay if you want to, but don't feel like you have to. By all means, protect your peace, protect your you know, your calm right now. If you can't handle it, totally understandable.
Yeah, and by all means, if you're not familiar, I would also highly advise maybe giving it a pause, giving it a Goog, so you have some familiarity, so you're not just, so we're not the first place that you're hearing, or maybe we are when we talk about it. But I just a heads up, maybe give yourself.
We're
some
not doing the
awareness.
sensational, gruesome details or anything. I refuse to do that. That is not the point of us talking about it, and that is not the part of it that deserves
Correct.
necessarily the sensationalism of it, basically.
No.
So yeah.
Totally. Alrighty.
So with that,
Oh, weird, really quick.
on the burner.
It-
Yeah, something's
I'm
kind of
gonna-
weird.
Pause.
Audio wise.
Well,
Hold on. Tech check.
Who's me? Is it me?
Yes, you.
I
But, like-
feel like it's picking up like a lot of background like white noise. Unless that's just me.
No, it's me too.
I think it's my cable. I think I need to replace it.
Oh, yeah, it could be. But yeah, we hear you clear. It was just for a moment. It felt a
How's
little
it
bit
sound
off.
now? Are we okay now?
Yep.
Yeah, you're a little blurry, but I think you're coming into focus.
Yeah, my signal here. Let me disconnect some devices from Wi-Fi.
Oh no.
Well, it's not you with all the devices.
I know.
Yeah.
Am I still staticky? Or are we good?
You sound good.
You sound good.
Okay.
Yeah.
As long as I sound good, I can be blurry. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
So again, we are on season 4, episode 18, The Light. Before I get into my hating ass ways, what are your guys' thoughts on this episode?
I wouldn't say I love this episode by any stretch of the word, but I see it with I think I usually skip over this one, but now I just have thoughts on like addiction and just some different perspective. I think it was an interesting way of telling a story of mind altering scenarios and situations and things. We'll go to the end. I thought it was a fun way to tell the story. I'm not gonna lie. We'll get into all the details. I thought it was an interesting way to tell it without it being so tropey. Because it kind of took a minute to be like, oh, we're talking about addiction. Oh, we're talking about detox. Oh, we're talking about this and the psychedelics and the impacts of stuff. Like, I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. And then what, particularly the impacts on parenthood and children and the isolation of that, I thought was interesting for me to think about this time around, and what happens in that abandonment and that attachment style that comes from it. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm in the middle. I found it unique. I don't need to watch it again, but I don't hate it.
Wells?
I think that part of me likes this episode because to me, it exists in a trio of episodes. It's the light, prodigy, entity together.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first of these three. I consider it a banger of a set of episodes, basically, with a lot of good Carter moments in all of them. So that's probably why. But yeah, I also think there's something to, like, there's that addiction, which we'll talk about some of the nuance of, like Sarah, you were saying earlier about, how it's portrayed in sci-fi versus reality and things like that.
Yes.
And it definitely does hit the like rave culture. Reminds me of doing shrooms in college and just staring at shit for a really long time and having no idea what time it is. So that part of it is like, oh, relatable,
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I include it in that trio of episodes, honestly, in my brain.
That's fair. I think I had a similar trio of episodes in season 3, right around Ergo. What was
That
it?
are not
Pretense?
related, but in your brain.
Yeah.
are?
Yeah, I just remember, because like when we had the DVDs as a kid, like that was the disc, because I'm like, Pretense, Ergo, 100 Days. Like, I know that and like it's not particularly like I love Ergo, but like Pretense, 100 Days, like whatever. But they were just like on that disc. So I don't
Yeah.
know, it just sticks in my brain. This for me is just like a shitty sequel to Need. I feel like a lot of what could have been said about addiction was said a lot better in the episode in season 2 called Need. Um, the pacing of this episode felt so weird. I hated the pacing. The way it ended was like, okay, here we go. We're good
It
now.
does have one
Bye.
of Bonnie. I was saying before we started, Bonnie watched the whole episode with me, because we watched it for dinner, and it gets to the end, and it gets to the end, and she's like, "Oh, that's it."
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah, they do that sometimes. There's no denouement. It's just like done."
Just done.
Yeah. So the pacing was really weird in that regard. Like, it just felt like it was going really slow and then it went really fast and then finished up. Bye. So it didn't feel like we had a lot of time to have those nuanced conversations, and like that moment in Need where like Jack is hugging Daniel who is crying. I mean, we kind of had a moment like that, but I don't know, like it felt hollow compared to the other episode that we had that was an allegory and even an example of addiction. I will say, Christina, I didn't think of the parent-child aspect of it as much, because like to me that it felt like filler storyline to me. Like, well, they needed to add something else in there to like beef up the episode, so we're gonna add this kid who's also there kind of randomly and nobody else is on this planet. So that's kind of like, again, it just, I don't know.
That touched
Yeah.
on
It felt like a nothing burger.
the parent thing with that touched on, like, I can't tell you how many EMS calls that I've run like that, so
Yeah.
that touched on all of that. It was like, oh shit, parents
So-
that in that anyway, you like look great in that picture, and then this, as what happened. Yeah.
And we can unpack this more, but this is my lens going into this discussion on the whole thing, is that I view this episode as there's an initial thing. Whenever we recount trauma, sometimes we have kind of a humorous view to it. It's shed with some like absurdities of sorts and little lightheartedness. And if I think about it, because I've always watched this episode, without this mindfulness of the child, but I watched it actually twice to really think about it from the family dynamic perspective, even though it kind of came in at the end. And I watched it today with this thought process of like, it's almost as if this guy is telling the story from his perspective of like trying to make light of it. But then as you like start unpacking someone's trauma, it gets a little bit more serious. Then you get a little bit more of the real story behind it. And that's how I feel like the addiction was portrayed, was a little bit kind of whimsical, and yeah, the psychedelics and all that. And it was not fully like deeply vetted, but very high level. I don't know. We'll go more into it, but I thought about it from that angle in the storytelling, and it kind of shifted how I feel about the episode. So maybe if we talk it through, I'll land a little bit firm on how I feel. But
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, so we're gonna get into it. Our episode opens with Sam and SG-5. They're about to ship out off-world to meet up with Daniel, who's already off-world. Jack hands something to Lieutenant Barber of SG-5 and tells him, "Give this to Daniel." And he tells Sam that he and Daniel had a bet, and Jack lost that bet. Sam asks what it was about, and he's just like, "It was sports ball," like being very vague. And when she presses him, he tells her it was curling. I'm like, okay, I don't believe you. She obviously doesn't buy it. They walk to the gate room, and Sam asks him if he's sure he wants to take the weekend off instead of coming with. And there's this kind of bit of dialogue where he's like, yeah, I'm good. Like, I need some time off. And I figured you'd want some time off too. And that's when Sam realizes that the bet was about her and whether or not she would go, whether she
Son
would
of a
meet up with
bitch.
Daniel. Yeah. This is like, I kind of like this opening. It was very lighthearted and then it took a very serious turn. But yeah, she's like, "Oh, it was about me. You were betting if I was gonna go or not." And I'm guessing Jack bet that she wasn't gonna go because he lost. Daniel was like, "No, she's gonna come. She can't
Yeah.
resist." Science. But before any of this can be discussed further, the wormhole opens and Lieutenant Barber runs up the ramp, jumps directly into the vortex created by the opening wormhole, being immediately disintegrated. So, took his own life.
Yes.
And we have our opening credits. And not a trace of him was left behind. Like, he was fully engulfed in this.
I had
No,
to
like
explain that to Bonnie.
Oh,
it's fully gone.
I will say the one part that really got to me and touched me was Hammond talking about this, and we'll get to it.
Mhm.
Because I thought about that too. I'm like, damn, he's just gone. He's gone. So we cut back to the gate room sometime later. SG-5 are returning along with Daniel, who is very excited to tell Jack about this planet. And he is like very giddy, almost frantically telling him about this light. And Jack cuts him off to tell him that Lieutenant Barber is dead. So then we cut to the briefing room. And Hammond asked if Barber had shown any signs of depression while he was on the mission. He had only been back on Earth for 48 hours to wait for a translation from Teal. He was helping them translate something they had got from the planet. And again, Daniel seems very frantic and absent-minded, like he's off. You can tell just by watching his mannerisms and how he's speaking. And Hammond asked for more details on this Gould palace they were studying. So we have some dialogue. It's Teal'c, Daniel, and Hammond. I think it's just like one quick Hammond. I'll just grab that one.
Sure.
Okay. I Daniel.
Were there any signs of recent Goa'uld activity?
No, I'm pretty sure no one has been there for hundreds of years. But there was this room where there was this pedestal which projected this light matrix hologram onto the ceiling, and it was absolutely stunning.
Any idea to its purpose?
Ideas, yes, but I was hoping this might tell me more. It's like looking at this thing. It's kind of like a Gould handheld computer. When it's turned on, it displays this Gould dialect I've never seen before. And there are similar writings all over the pillars of the palace. I'm thinking or hoping, crossing my fingers actually, that they're instructions.
I would be happy to provide further assistance with the translation, Daniel Jackson.
All right. So, sometime later, Jack meets up with Daniel and Teal'c in Daniel's lab. Teal'c is working on the translation. He's watching video footage of this palace because there's text and writing all over the walls and pillars. And Daniel is very antsy. Like, he's pacing back and forth.
Like, understatement. It's
Yeah.
like
he's agitated. And Daniel, or Teal'c is watching the footage. He notices there's another person. Like, he kind of sees like a shadow along the wall of like somebody running away in the background. And Daniel is annoyed with this remote device that's not working. He wants to go back to the planet as soon as possible. So he meets up with Hammond. He goes to Hammond's office. He's yelling at Hammond. He's very agitated, but they're due to go back tomorrow. He's like, chill out, dude. Like, you're going back tomorrow. It's not like you're not allowed to go back. Like, you're gonna go back. Why can't you wait? And he's, Jack is trying to calm Daniel down and tell, like, chill out, bro. Like, relax. And Hammond says, it's all right, Colonel. And he looks at Daniel. He explains, this letter is to Lieutenant Barber's family, explaining that he died in the service of his country. I spent the last 2 hours on it. I can't tell them anything about how he died or anything about the work he did, only that he's gone. Do you get, like, Hammond's like, bro, I'm dealing with this shit. Like, you need to chill. So not only does he have to tell his family that he is dead, he died in the service of this country. They don't even know what happened. There's no, like, story of heroism of, like, he died fighting, protecting someone. Like, there's nothing like that. He can't give them anything like that. And on top of that, there is no body. He's just gone. And that, like, I feel really bad for Hammond in this situation to have to be that liaison to explain to these families, like, not only is your loved one dead, but, like, you don't even have a physical body to bury. And that has to be really hard for closure. Like, some people really need that closure, which is why, like, I watch this creator on YouTube. Her name is Caitlin Doty, Ask a Mortician. She's a mortician, and she talks a lot about, like, the rituals of funerals and the rituals behind, like, a lot of death rituals in other countries and stuff, and how they are meant to help the living grieve and mourn and accept the loss. And it's just so interesting, like, the fact that he is gone, but there's just nothing left behind for that family. They're going to get nothing, if maybe an empty casket to bury. But even then, it's like, if they wanted to look at him or anything, he's gone.
Yeah, they're also
So
probably assuming that I'm assuming that they think, like, like Jacob thought about Sam, like, oh, you're in the mountain doing
deep space radar
radar
telemetry.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
like, to go from that to, oh, sorry, he's gone and there's nothing left of him to even show you. Like,
Yeah,
that's a shock,
yeah. It's about, I really feel for Hammond in the situation to have to explain that and not be able to tell them the truth about, like, yo, he was a fucking hero. He was going to other planets and, like, gathering all of this information and knowledge and leading people in these dangerous situations, and, like, he was awesome, and something happened.
Here's where my ability to have empathy sometimes gets a little bit wonky, and like when watching shows, because like I agree with you, like, and I empathize with it, but then my brain does this thing. I'm like, but that's not fair for me to only empathize on this particular one, because how many other people died in all the other episodes, and we don't hear Hammond's perspective on it and him writing it. And I know he has to write every single person, and there's not bodies
All
for
of
all
them.
those, for all of them. And
Yeah.
then I go, and then it's, so my brain does this thing where I'm like, no, come back to being empathetic to the story they're trying to tell me. But then I get lost in this, like, but all these other people died. We don't hear about them stories. And so anyway, so my brain went to a weird spot during that scene, because I was like, I know it's to, like, calm Daniel down, to be like, dude, I'm dealing with this fucking shit, so calm the fuck down. But I was like, but then I just thought about all the people who died. And then I went to all the people in our military that die, and nobody knows, there's no bodies. And then I went down a rabbit hole. So my brain took me to a weird spot
I
with
think
that, but
I
it's
think you can
hard.
also, though, because you do think about that. You can't not but think about, like, how many of these letters has Hammond had to write. And I also start feeling major empathy for Hammond, having to do all that shit. Like,
Oh yeah.
that's got to be super taxing. And we know Hammond is a caring leader too. Like,
He's not gonna just have some template bullshit where it's like a.
he said he's been spending 2 hours on this letter, like,
Yeah.
2 hours minimum, and he still hasn't figured out what to say. So, yeah.
Tangent. Remember in The Golden Girls where Blanche is writing her romance novel and she's getting pissed off from being rejected? She's like, I keep getting these form letters where where it's just like it's like a rejection template. Like, him is not doing a form letter.
He's not doing a form letter.
Doing a
As a
personalized.
filmmaker who has submitted to lots of film festivals, I can assure you the form letters, they suck worse than if you get an actual letter, for sure. So, like, it's to have a personal touch means all the world, and especially in some sort of like mourning situation. But
Yeah.
form letters.
Oh, I love that one.
No form letters.
But yeah, and I guess like, okay, we never really thought of it this way because it wasn't presented to us in this way. Like we know that people have died and like, you know, but it's like that thing that we talked about a couple episodes back where it's like that feeling where you have a moment and you're like, "Oh my god, everyone around me has deeply personal, enriched lives and personal experiences, and I am just one person and everything." You realize it like here and there, but you can't dwell on it because it's like, bro, I gotta live
brain
and function as a
Your brain is
human.
protecting yourself by
Yeah.
doing it that way. Yeah, like
Yeah.
otherwise you wouldn't be able to exist.
Correct.
You know?
No.
Yeah. So it's
No.
kind of like that where it's like, wow, it was never presented to us this way, so I never like had to think about it or confront that. So it was just interesting. And especially in this scenario where there's nothing left of this man for them to like ship back home for them to bury or anything like that. So where did I go? Okay, so SG-1 are ready to ship out, but Daniel is nowhere to be found. So it's like the next
After making
day,
that whole stink, now
Yeah.
he's like nowhere to be
he's
found.
nowhere. Yeah. Jack I think they try to call him, but he doesn't answer. Jack goes to his apartment and he finds him standing on the edge of his balcony, looking like he's ready to jump, and like he's on the other side of like the railing. So he climbed over. He's talking like all of this nonsense. Jack is trying to reason with him. And then we see Daniel has a moment of clarity, realizing what he's doing, and Jack is able to help him get down. Cut to the infirmary. A PT scan reveals that his neurological activity is slowing. Neurotransmitters relay messages within the body. Too many or too few of these chemical transmissions can result in anxiety, depression, or a number of emotional or physical disorders. So there's a chemical imbalance in his brain that is causing this type of reaction. So we have some dialogue. It's O'Neill, Fraser, and I'll grab the one Hammond.
I'll
Which
take
one you want?
Fraser. I'll take Fraser.
Okay.
I'll take
Okay.
Technobabble, although I'm not sure how much she has in this, but she usually has a good bit of Technobabble.
You got the medical background.
Yeah, you got this.
The EMS.
All right. Does this have anything to do with Barber's thing?
The remaining members of SG-5 are reporting almost identical symptoms. Yes, it seems almost certain. Now, the only good news is that it doesn't seem to be the result of a contagion.
Well, if it's not a disease, what?
I don't know. Such a drastic shift in levels is generally drug-induced, but all of their symptoms are void of any foreign substances. Not to mention that preliminary MALP readings of P4X347 have ruled out all the usual suspects: air, radiation.
So if we retrace SG-5's tracks, we may be able to come up with something?
I'm afraid so, Colonel, until we get a grasp on it.
General. Was that right? Oh,
Yeah, I don't know. It might have been the transcript that was wrong.
no worries. General, we saw the shadow on the video. Now something or someone is affecting these guys.
More than affecting them, sir. If their brain function continues to fail, they could be facing a worst-case scenario.
So we go in MOP2 and bring back samples of the usual. Sorry, my brain is like really reading words backwards today. So I'm
blah, blah, blah.
wow.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. I don't know what is happening.
That's how I feel whenever I read Teal'c, because I'm like, oh, he talks in that like very like structured way.
Grammatically correct.
Yeah,
I would do better.
Doesn't end a single sentence with a preposition. Not a single one. Bonnie is so proud.
Aw. So Hammond approves the mission. Sam, Jack, and Teal'c head out. They arrive and they determine the air is okay, so whatever caused this wasn't airborne. They see the shadow on the wall, just like in the video, and it's a kid running down the hall. They notice a room with a bright light emitting from a machine in the middle of the room. It doesn't seem to be giving off any detectable radiation other than visible light. It's a fancy galaxy light. That's what my galaxy light looks like.
It's one right now. Mine's on right now.
Yeah. Ooh, the lights.
The lights.
They all stare at it. They appear to be in a trance. They're able to break away.
It's just a
Need some nice
I know. Where's the DJ
Music.
spinning in the corner is all I'm
Right.
asking.
So they're able to break away from the light to explore the rest of the palace. Like they kind of snap out of it. Sam wants to perform a full spectrum analysis on that light, thinking it could be related to what's happening to Daniel. And they find this teenage boy. His name is Lauren. Jack asks
I'm
if he
sorry.
knows.
He looks like a 30-year-old man, but we
I
can
was gonna say, like, they're like, oh, it's a kid, and I'm like, he looks
that
like
is a 30-year-old
an
man. But
adult,
okay.
Y'all keep talking. I'm gonna find out how old he was.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
It was the 90s. Skincare was not as advanced as it is today.
No. I was like, this is a man, but okay. Anyway, sorry.
So yeah, like we assume he's like a teenager. Like when at first they were like, "Oh, it's a child." I'm thinking like, "Oh, he's gonna be like 12." No, he's like
30. He's a man. He's a man child.
a man.
He's a
So
man.
what we got? So Jack asks if this man child
A white
person.
man.
He was 24.
Oh my god.
Oh, okay. But actually, that's going to play into my theories later about trauma and delayed development.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get so that tracks with my interpretations. That are
So
obviously correct.
Jack asks this young man if he knows why SG-5 would be sick after being there, and this kid doesn't know. He's like, I don't know. Hammond dials in to see if everything's going okay, and Jack is like, yeah, we've only been here a few minutes, but Hammond is like, bro, it's been over an hour. What are you talking about? And they're kind of confused.
Shrooms,
They're like,
man.
what?
Shrooms.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
He also tells Jack that, bummer, all of SG-5 are dead. So he's going to have to write a couple more letters. Or maybe just, like, use that form letter that
He might actually use the form letter to solve this problem and write these letters. Like,
It's like, I
Mhm.
just wrote one of these that was very personalized. They're not going to know if I just take out this person's name. Oh, this is dark
Yeah.
humor. Sorry. So Jack returns with samples as requested by Fraser, and Sam stays behind to study the light, and Teal'c talks to Lauren. Lauren tells Teal'c that his parents were explorers as well and brought him to this planet, and we still don't know where his parents are. He kind of shows him like a picture, it's like a digital rendering. Like he takes out this, hey, look at my parents. They have this really cute conversation about his birthday. Like he's like, "Oh, my parents gave me this when you're for my birthday." Also, I really like that he just said birthday and not some cornball ass for my name day or whatever fucking bullshit that they come up with in fantasy novels of like
it's always some sort of, yeah.
my name
Mhm.
day, my 81st name day, because like their faces of the moon there are different or whatever. I don't know. He just said birthday. I appreciated that. But it's like this toy gun, and he shows it to Teal'c, and Teal'c he tells him like, we don't celebrate birthdays, and he's like, well, how do you know how old you are? And Teal'c is just like, I'm gonna be 100 and whatever next month. But it was
In
this really cute
47 days,
conversation.
he's going to be 102.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we need
I
to
just
use the
watched it.
math. We,
just
you know what? This is how we find out Teal'c's birthday. The day this episode aired, 47 days from then, that's Teal'c's birthday. And we can find out what his star sign is, because his was the one that we weren't sure about.
Ooh, that's a good idea. That's fair.
Somebody
I like it.
that can give it a goog in the comments. Figure
Yeah.
that out.
The day
Figure
this
out when this
episode aired, plus 47 days, and then figure out what his star
The
sign is.
episode aired on January 26th of 2001, and that's what I'll give you. Get to work, y'all.
January 26th. I bet he's an Aries. That's what he sounds like.
Oh,
Could be wrong.
yes.
Water signs
That
fight
makes
for their
sense.
lives.
I'm an Aries Taurus, so I'm a whole hot bag of garbage
I'm a straight
mixed
up
together.
Aries.
right. Oh no, I'm so complex. And not in the same
Cancer,
way.
water representation. Anyway,
You're the same as Ryder. You guys have the same birthday.
birthday twins. Yep.
Yeah, birthday twins. She loves
So-
a little crabby. Okay, sorry,
Oh,
we
yeah.
can keep going.
Cut back to the infirmary. Jack is sitting with Daniel, and Jack is now getting antsy and angrily lashing out at Dr. Fraser. And she almost has to have his ass like booted out. Like the SF at the door like steps forward.
Don't mess with
Oh.
the Napoleonic power monger. Don't do
Correct.
it.
No.
Yes.
Nope.
She may be
Mhm.
tiny in stature, but she has the authority to override any one of those bitches medically.
Mm-hmm.
I'd put money on Janet in a fight too. I think she's
Oh,
feisty.
Scrappy.
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
And then Jack then realizes, like, oh shit, the same thing is happening to me. And she rechecks his blood work. So we do have some dialogue between Fraser, O'Neill, Hammond. I'll grab the
You get a
one
lot of Fraser O'Neill Hammond this time
to
around.
Yep.
yeah. I'll
I
grab
like
the
it.
Hammond again.
All
I'll
right.
do
You want to
Fraser
stick with
again.
Fraser? Okay.
Whatever's causing this actually accelerates neural activity in the brain and causes a dopamine-like effect in the body.
Kind of like drugs.
Only as long as you're on the planet. Shortly after you returned, neural activity begins to decrease and depression results. Blood work confirms it.
Oh my bad, this is me. I'm not used to Hammond. Does the boy carry any immunity we could use to our advantage?
No, his blood work came back the same. I don't think he'll be able to leave the planet without experiencing the same narcotic withdrawal symptoms.
But Colonel O'Neill was only at that planet for over an hour.
Yes, sir. This addiction appears to be almost instantaneous.
You're telling me I'm addicted to that place?
The intensity of your mood swing into depression seems to be proportional to the time you spent on the planet. All we can do is hope that your exposure wasn't long enough for your symptoms to get as bad as they did with Daniel and the others.
Great. All those years of just saying no.
Jack, I've tried to recall Major Carter or Teal'c. They haven't responded. I can't risk sending another team. So basically, they're going to send him back. Daniel starts
Mhm.
to crash, and Fraser tells them they need to take him back to the planet. Jack carries him through the wormhole, boots and all. This is where I was like, was he laying in that infirmary bed in his full ass uniform with his boots on? That sounds
Mm.
terrible. Like they didn't even like put him in a hospital gown or anything because Jack just picks him up and runs him through, and he's just like in his regular mission outfit. I have
I don't know.
questions. What is that about? I don't even
I
like
mean, have
laying
you ever,
on my bed with
have you ever gone to
jeans
the
on.
ER? They don't strip you
That's
down.
true. Not until you're admitted. And
Yep.
even then.
I
Eh,
would have
never
thought.
thought about it.
I'm trying to think. Well,
But I
because
would
you
have
know,
thought if you're talking medically accurate, they probably would have cut his shirt up the middle and like for all the
right.
stuff. They didn't do that either. So.
Also, didn't they take him directly from his apartment
Mm.
to so like he wasn't even in
Casually,
mission
Sandra
clothes.
just said the same thing. He was found in a
Correct.
sweater, was he not?
So they dressed him. So Jack dressed him.
The
and
continuity. I don't think
made
they had
sure he
time to
was.
like. No, I don't think they had time to put his mission gear
So
on.
we're
And his
gonna
boots.
I'm agreeing with
y'all,
you, Sarah,
this
that
is
it was.
this is what we call suspension of disbelief. Like,
I was just hung up on like he was laying in that bed covered up with his boots on. I don't even like sitting on my couch with jeans on. I
Oh
need
no, I
comfy,
changed.
I need
Nope.
comfy inside clothes. I have my inside
Yep.
clothes and my outside clothes.
Thank you. Yes,
And
my outside clothes are hanging in my bathroom right now, so I change into them, and then those are what I wear when I leave the house. When I get home, I change back into my indoor clothes.
correct. Yes.
They don't cross over.
Sitting around the house in jeans, that's diabolical.
Amen.
And then there's some people that put on shoes too, just to sit
Nope.
around their house. Why would you do that?
No, get slippers. If you want to do that, wear slippers. Don't wear your shoes in the house. Germs. It's just worse.
Socks? Yeah. I was just that I was just
Mara
like,
has
continuity.
Teal'c's date for you.
Oh.
It is March
Ooh,
14th, Pisces.
Ooh.
Oh, okay. That, I
Ooh,
think
I
that's
should get out. Oh, I should get out my book of birthdays because I have a whole breakdown by
But-
day.
But is it though? Because the star signs are going to be completely different on Chulak.
Okay,
Mm.
so ChatGPT could run us an analysis. If we say what would we could run a hypothetical.
Because Sam is a Capricorn. She's end of December. Jack is October. I think he's Libra. He's not Scorpio. Daniel is Cancer. His birthday is like July 7th or something. He said it in the one episode. There but for the grace of God. And now Teal'c. And that's what my research indicated that he was a Pisces at one point, like when I was Googling this eons ago. So yeah, okay. But now we have to do astrology, the Chulak version.
On Chulak.
I like it.
Awesome. So,
Mhm.
anyway, Daniel with his fucking hospital boots go through the Stargate. And he
I would have
hospital
lost
boots.
it though if they had him in the yellow grippy socks, like from the
That would have
ER.
been
Like
amazing. That would have
would've
been so good.
continuity.
because he
That
doesn't leave the temple like
no.
the
No.
rest of the
He
time.
needs the hospital robe with his ass hanging out and then the grippy
Yeah.
socks. Realistic.
Eastland did make a good point, and I'm jumping to comments that make sense in the moment. But Eastland did make a good point of maybe there was a scene that was cut or something. Maybe it was like
Yeah.
there was some scene of him back at the base or at some point or
Hmm.
something, which is possible for sure.
Yeah.
But again, this is where I'm nitpicking here. If they brought him from his apartment directly to the infirmary, they would not put him in like mission gear with boots on and shit and put him in the hospital bed.
That's what I'm
I
saying. They might have brought
do-
him back. He might have changed, and then something. It gets even worse at that point.
Oh,
You know what
like he was ready to go to the planet and then like
Yeah. And then he fell.
They talk to him, like
Stop
he comes back to
reasoning
the
with me.
base, he changes, he goes to the locker room before he talks to Hammond, and then Hammond's like, "Nah, you're not going anywhere for sure now because you were like suicidal." And
Yeah.
then he gets worse, and it's I don't it's like it
And
could
then they're
work.
like, get them boots in that bed right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're not taking them off. Just get
Yeah.
them boots in the bed.
Maybe he passes out. Maybe he was talking to Hammy and then he passed out, and then they're like, "We don't got time to take his boots off, y'all." But
I
they
just
probably
like
should have cut his shirt off. Is all I'm saying.
Just let me complain. Yeah, that would have been more. And then Christina would have got a nice view. Anyway.
Ooh.
We're trying for you, Christina. We're trying.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
I'm saying hospital robe, open in the back.
I haven't,
Whole booty sticking out. So Daniel starts to
booty girl. But that's
Aren't you all glad you're here right now?
these are the conversations that really matter about Stargate. The uniform inconsistencies and why he's not in a hospital robe.
I'm upset I didn't get my nudity set.
That warning happens at the beginning of every
Show me
goddamn
the
episode.
tidy
and
whitey
it only
woman.
happened once.
In the pilot episode, that's it. I demand my butt cheeks. Anyway.
So, Daniel starts to regain consciousness, and we find Sam and Teal'c in the light room watching the show.
All right.
Jack
this
tells
the-
them, yeah. So Jack tells them Fraser's theory, and they're addicted to the light. There is a nice, I don't know if I have. Yeah, okay, never mind. I do have it up here further. So Sam's like, I don't believe that. What the heck? But Jack calls for Lauren, and he is mad because he's like, this little shit knew the whole time, and he didn't tell us anything. So the jig is up, man child. So they determine they need to figure out what's going on with this light because they're all stuck there indefinitely if they can't figure it out. Hammond checks in with Daniel and sends some supplies along with the remote. So Daniel's kind of staying in like the atrium where the Stargate is, while all these everyone else is kind of just like stuck in the light room, just like a moth to a flame, just staring. So Daniel figures out how to turn the light off, and when he goes into the room, Sam, Jack, and Teal'c are all in a trance looking at it while he shuts it off. So we have Daniel, Teal'c, O'Neill, Carter. I'll grab a Teal'c.
Sure. I'll
Okay,
do
I
O'Neill
got-
and Carter if you do Daniel's.
Yeah, I
bit.
got Daniel. Monologue.
He's
right.
monologuing. Look out.
What up? I don't get booty cheeks, but I get a monologue. All right. So sorry, guys. All right. Well, perception of time is one of the first things to go when you're high. From what I've been able to translate so far with Lauren's help, the goal is to use this place as some sort of opium den. The only difference is their symbiotes must have kept the host mind chemically balanced once they left. It was a sex den. That's what it was.
Freaky.
Freaky.
Teal'c says, "Oh God, I gotta hold on. I gotta.
You picked Teal'c.
I know. Then it is most likely I will be able to leave."
O'Neill says, "Oh, how nice for you." And then Carter says, "Wait a minute. If you turned it off, how come I'm not getting depressed?"
Perhaps it will take some time to feel its effects.
O'Neill says, "Let's take advantage of that time."
Yeah. So Jack tries to get more information out of Lauren about his parents, but he clams up.
Thumbs up.
Yeah. Come on, man, child, spill the beans.
No.
So So they're like, all right, fine. Because he's talking about his parents. And he was like, oh, my parents will be coming back. Like, they'll be back soon. They're out. They went out to get some cigarettes and some milk. And they just didn't come back yet. Or whatever. Whatever the trope is.
God.
So Jack, Sam, and Teal'c explore the grounds outside the palace, and they're walking along the beach. And we have a clip for you guys.
We got a clip. We just did it, y'all, because we know
Yeah.
everybody loves this.
We can't read this.
What?
Can't do it justice.
I guess the reality that we may never go home is starting to set in.
Oh, Hammond will keep us supplied with everything we need until we can figure this out. It's a nice beach.
Be a good excuse for you, wouldn't it?
No, it's not. It's all like mossy and shit.
To do nothing for a while?
What?
Forget it.
That would be forget it, sir.
Oh, please. You think I'm keeping that up if we're stuck here forever?
Listen, Major.
No way.
That's no way, Colonel.
Wait, I'm supposed to accept that? That's the way it's gonna be?
That's the way it is.
What difference does it make? It's not up to you.
Carter! You're in withdrawal.
Oh, I'm in withdrawal.
Yes! So am I. O'Neill.
I love this.
Major Carter.
And then they both turn at the same time. It's just so
Yeah. Yeah. So
I love seeing Sam's. I just love seeing Sam's like military like rigidity just like not be there for a little bit.
'cause it's
Yeah.
totally
Even though
not
it's like
her.
totally based off of a chemical response or whatever, it's still just
Yeah.
so good. You never
just
see her
making-
crack like that almost ever, you know. So anytime she
Never.
does, it's super, super exciting.
Yeah. So we have that. And then after that, that's when Teal'c finds Lauren's parents, who are skeletal remains at this point.
Deceased.
Definitely coming back. They
Yeah.
are. They
That's-
ascended.
The skeletons every time make me go, how, like, because there is the question, I'm sure we could get to it at the end, but like, how the fuck long has Lauren been on this planet, you know?
Yeah.
So where
Yeah.
does he get his food from? Again, I gotta suspend my disbelief on things. It's fine.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
Lauren shows Daniel a picture of him with him and his parents, and he's like, "Oh, can I take a picture of you?" And he like takes a picture with his space digital camera. The others return and tell Daniel they're going through withdrawal, but Daniel has felt fine the whole time, and the light has been off the entire time. But then they realize, as soon as they get back into this palace, the atrium, even they're not in the direct light room, they're starting to feel better. So it has to be something more than just the light itself. So we have in dialogue O'Neill, Teal'c, Carter, Daniel. Oh my god, it's all of them. Lauren.
I can do Lauren and Daniel because there's like one Daniel.
Yeah.
I'll grab the O'Neill.
I got my standard Carter.
Okay.
All right, I'll do O'Neill and Teal'c then. Pray for me. So Jack says, well, it's sure not as much fun to look at with the light off. And then Teal'c says, I feel no compulsion to remain here.
Sir, I think you're maybe onto something.
How's that?
The light isn't what's affecting our minds. It's just something to take advantage of our altered state of our brain chemistry.
So entertainment.
Probably more than that. The color and light interaction with our optic nerve probably triggers the chemical responses, but it's not the direct cause of the imbalance.
What's the cause then?
There must be a hidden device emitting some form of energy or radiation that we can't detect with our instruments.
All right, Lauren, what does this room seem to affect you? Or why doesn't this room seem to affect you?
Too young.
How do you know that?
My father told me.
It is possible that this place can only affect an adult physiology.
Fraser says he's just as addicted as we are.
She's right. The light didn't have any effect on me.
Then what did it do to your parents? We need to know what this thing does.
When they get back, they'll explain.
They're not coming back. You know that.
They are.
Somebody buried those bodies. Now, how do you shut that thing off? So, Lauren, he touches something on the pedestal where the light is coming out of, and a control panel is revealed, and then he runs away because Jack made him sad by, like,
Mantra.
confronting him with the reality of like his parents are dead. Somebody buried their bodies. We know it was you. So Jack follows him to apologize, and Lauren tells him the story about what happened to his parents. So we have this chunk of dialogue. Would
Yeah.
anyone like to read?
I can read it.
Go for it.
Lauren says, "We found this place. All that they would do is stare at that light all day. The light didn't affect me. My father said it was because I was too young, but they didn't let me in the light room anyway. I told them to stop every day, but they'd just tell me to bring them things, and one day I stopped. It was days before their hunger was stronger than the light. Then they came out, looking for me, looking for food, and I snuck into the light room and I turned it off. Not just the light, everything. I didn't know that it would hurt them. I just wanted to go home. They died because of me. They were screaming. They ran outside. They didn't make any sense. So I did. I turned it back on, but they were already in the water. So far. And they just kept on going. They just kept going and screaming. And I turned it back on, but they just kept on going. And then they were gone. And the next day I found them on the shore."
So that is what happened to his parents. Back in the light room, Sam has figured out how to incrementally turn down the effects so they can safely withdraw. It should take 2 to 3 weeks for them to return to normal. And we have this ending bit of dialogue. So, like, we're at the end of the episode. We had this big emotional moment about Lauren's parents, and it's like, oh, it's going to take 2 to 3 weeks and we'll be back to normal. And that's it. I mean, like, Jack says, so 3 weeks in a palace by the beach. Teal, you don't have to hang around. Why don't you go back and let Hammond know what's going on? And
Mhm.
and then Lauren's like, oh, you're gonna leave, and like we'll leave together. Like you can come with us. And then they go, let's see Teal'c off, and you'll like some ice cream when you get back. And Lauren's like, what's ice cream? And that's the episode, and that's where it loses me because I'm like, bro, like it just
See,
fell off.
it plays into like if someone were truly having to have this conversation with a child. Sorry, my hair's knotted. You see me struggling with it. It really, like, even us talking it through, it feels like going through the phases of acknowledgement of trauma and like owning it, but then yeah, especially at the end, like, let's go get some ice cream. Let's just like, okay, we open that up, now we're gonna close that and we're gonna like pacify. I don't know, it just seems very, I don't know, we can discuss it, but
And like it seems like, and I know this is not reality. This is why like this story to me doesn't do it justice the way Need when it talked about it. But it's like, oh, like we already turned it down a couple levels. We didn't even notice. Like we'll just have to incrementally turn it down over 2 weeks and we'll be fine and we'll never be bothered by it again.
But there is something to be said about the fact that the episode opens with Jack saying Sam's not going to take, like them saying Sam's not going to take off. And then the end is like, look, you get a vacation, and the vacation isn't spoiled by like going through withdrawals or whatever. It's like, oh, fuck, like Sam's got to take a vacation now. Like,
Jack
yeah,
literally
just
says
let it
it. 2 to 3 weeks in a palace by the beach.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, Sam's going to be the only one miserable, probably. You know,
we got delivery on dial-up. Hammy, send us some pizzas through the gate. We're hungry.
Yeah.
Like,
but that mirrors the whole bet thing at the very beginning, or it like bookends it, you know?
Yeah.
So then who wins the bet? Because they're working, but they're also on vacation.
I still say Daniel.
So who
Maybe the bet
wins?
has to be reevaluated. I don't know.
No, there must be a winner.
Sam's gonna be
Redo.
like, everybody else gonna be chilling, you know, having a good time. Sam's still gonna be like doing something.
She's like, I
she's
want the
gonna
Jack
bring
and
us
the
Hyde.
pH of the water every once in a while. Like she's got to do something. She can't not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
All right. So comments check. Do we have any good comments?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's see. Mara says at the very beginning, Mara said, I just want to know what happens with the kid.
We never find out.
We never find out.
It's one of those storylines.
Yeah.
Remember from that one episode where it's like the two factions of the planet where like one believes this and this other continent believes in this and they unearth the Stargate or whatever and they bring the one guy home and Daniel's like, you'll be my lab assistant, and we never see him again.
We never see him again.
Remember?
Mhm.
Yeah, I forget what that episode is called.
Yeah.
But, like,
Captain. Oh, go ahead. Go
Oh,
ahead.
no. Go.
I was just going to say, Captain Swan made a good point of, I believe this is the second time Teal'c has pulled the trigger on a weapon without being positive it was a toy. Like, what would he have done if it actually shot something?
I think the first time was the water
Bane?
gun.
In Bane,
Yes.
right? Was it Bane? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. That's true. He's just like pulling the trigger. This is maybe why he doesn't carry regular guns at this point. Maybe they had to finally be like, Teal'c, we want to give you a P92, but you need to stop just pulling random triggers.
You can't just
He can't just be pew-pewing. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Mara did go ahead and pull up the whole information about on March 14th. Combines intelligence with profound creative insight. They have sexual magnetism and can exert considerable control over others.
Teal'c.
Prophetic and poetic, they seem to be on another plane of existence. They have a love of illusion and are drawn to the occult and the supernatural.
Mhm.
And then again, Mara coming in with the Cristina just got to wait till season 7, episode 1 for the booty cheeks. There you go.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Just here for the booty cheeks.
Yep.
That's it.
Casually, Sandra points out, and after that fight, the episode is over.
Pretty much.
Mhm.
After the beach scene, we are done. But also, when Jack yells at Lauren, it's hard not to feel bad for the boy man here. The boy man.
I mean, okay. As someone who has had to have someone talk to me in that way, I mean, not to this extreme, but sometimes we don't want to look the thing in the face because it's too traumatic. It's too that. The reality of acknowledging or saying the thing of what it is really tough. And so I can have a little bit of empathy, but you do it sometimes just need to have someone just go, what the fuck? Like, this is what this is. You need to align and tune into what's going on. You have to stop avoiding it. And I remember like being on the receiving end of that with something that was going on in my marriage. And like someone just being like, you can't not have this. Like, you have to acknowledge it. And me being like, well, fuck, that was really rude. But also, you're right. And I was very thankful for that. So sometimes it goes back to saying the thing out loud. Sometimes you just got to give some hard truth in a gentle way. Try it. But like sometimes you need a little kick. You need a little reality check.
One of
You
my
okay,
old...
Wells?
I inhaled
You
some for a
dying
second.
over there?
It's okay. We're good.
Oh no.
Okay. Oh no.
One of my old managers at the grocery store of all places said something one time, and it was so fucking funny. Cause like it was about some bullshit, right? And he was like, I need you to find whoever did this and hurt their feelings. Basically, like, you know, hold them accountable. But the way he said it, like, so sometimes it's like, yeah, sometimes you gotta hurt people's feelings. Because that's what, like, I'm always worried about. Like, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, but sometimes, like, you have to. You have to, like, yo, get it together. Like, this is the deal. And it might suck to have to be that person to say it, but I think it's worth saying those things if it's going to help people. And obviously, like, you don't want to be needlessly cruel or needlessly mean. So as long as you go into it with that, like, yeah, sometimes it's gonna suck, but yeah, sometimes you gotta hurt people's feelings.
100%.
And then obviously this episode is about addiction, and something that I was talking to you about, Wells, was how when it's portrayed in science fiction, at least specifically in this scenario, it's like, oh no, they fell victim to this alien thing, and it's not their fault. It's this alien technology. But unfortunately, the way we look at addicts in society today is that they are failures, they are weak, they are drains on society, just like the worst possible things. And addiction is a disease. It is quite literally a chemical reaction in your brain.
Yep.
And I don't think a lot of people look at it that way. They don't view it that way. They view it as a choice. You choose to be addicted. You chose to start. You can choose to end. And it's that simple. And that's such a reductive black and white mindset that has no nuance to it at all. And unfortunately, unless people have struggled with it in some way or know people who have struggled with it, they're not going to understand, or, unless they educate themselves. And even then, they still might not fully understand.
I transported a minimum of one drug user every shift in EMS. Minimum. Whether that was overdose or just because they've got, meth induced schizophrenia, like all this stuff. And not a single one of them was happy that they were addicted to drugs. Not a
Yeah.
single one of them,
Mhm.
like it's just when you don't know it, when you don't see it, you don't see people that are going through it, you don't talk to those people, you don't realize that you're potentially one very small step away from something like that, then yeah, you have this, not you in general, but like there is this
Mhm.
like moral compass issue with it. But it's really, people get prescribed pain meds all the time, and then their doctors take them off of it abruptly, and then they're either like go through massive withdrawals or they find other ways to get that same drug,
Yeah.
So
Oh, and there's some bullshit from the pharmaceutical companies on that too,
yeah.
with opiates. And there's documentaries about it too, which it's incredibly fucked up. Like, they knew how addictive it was. It was all about sales and having their sales reps
Mhm.
push it and prescribe more and more and more. And it got people to the point where they were addicted. And then when it became harder for them to get
Mhm.
it, they turned to hard drugs like heroin. There's a documentary series on Netflix called The Pharmacist, which was
Mhm.
excellent.
Mhm.
I would highly
Really
recommend
good.
that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, really good.
I remember after it was my hysterectomy after that one, and they had prescribed, opioids, and I had to go to the emergency room for like a complication as a side effect of those. And anyway, I remember the ER doctor, and my dad had to take me, and I remember I was so thankful for this guy. He's like, just go to the dispensary and get weed, get something else to numb the pain. Like, I'm not giving you any prescriptions, because let alone the addictive behavior, your body is really having a difficult time with it. Like, so you need to just go to a dispensary. My dad's like, you're telling her to go get high, and he's like, what do you think
What do
the
you think
opioid
the
what
opioids are doing? Like,
I know. And like, and my dad was like, oh, he's like, so it's legal in California. Please go get something for pain management
Mhm.
and get the fuck off of this, because I can't, like, you should not do those. So in a future state, don't take that prescription. Tell them no.
Yeah.
And anyway, yeah, I'm like, I really appreciate that doctor at a very prestigious hospital going, no, I want we're going to find a different way, because
Yeah.
you're not going to go down that path.
I will
So-
offer. Oh, go ahead, Sarah.
You go.
I was just gonna, it's a slippery slope, because part of me is like, I'm terrified to ever take any prescription pain meds like that. But then it's also like, well, we also, all three of us, have the misfortune of presenting as female, so our pain is already not believed anyway, and we're probably less likely to get prescribed that stuff anyway, or pain management. So yeah, that's kind of a
The only
double-edged
time I've
sword.
ever been prescribed it is by a female doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Honestly.
After my C-section, they forgot, and I was like not with it. It was 2 days before I had pain meds.
Oh yeah. We're out there
Like-
raw dog and IUD insertions, and then meanwhile the men get the vasectomies, and they're like, "Okay, princess, here's your little pillow, and you get a little here's a little something for the anxiety, because I know you're nervous, and then here's something before, and here's something after. Okay, we're gonna go tuck you in now." Like, and
I
then
know.
I'm just like, yeah. Anyway,
Yeah. It was
I'm a little bitter about that, but that's fine.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
will offer, if people who maybe haven't watched it yet, but if you are of a sci-fi mind and like Star Trek, you really should watch Picard, because it's
Mhm.
one of the only sci-fi shows that I have watched that deals with addiction in a very real way and not an aliens did something to me sort of way. The entire character, Michelle Hurd's entire character, Raffi, is an addict and goes through every season issues because of it. And it's phenomenal, like character, storytelling, everything. And I remember when interviewing her at the Companion, she talked about the number of like addicts and people that have gone through things that have come up to her and have said like, thank you so much for portraying this character. It means so much to me to be able to see that in that way, that like even in a like utopian society, people still find themselves in addiction issues, you know?
Yeah.
Even if like money doesn't matter in like the Federation, like none of that matters. Raffi still ended up an addict and has issues with her adult son now because of it, has all these issues, then like has to like kind of put herself back in that a dangerous situation with them because of Starfleet. Like it's just all it's an incredible story, and Michelle does it so well. Michelle's on the brain because she sent that wonderfully nice email to me today. But like
Yeah.
love her so much. But yes, you should watch Picard for Raffi. Scott says Picard has its issues. I would disagree, but this is not a Star Trek podcast, so I'm not going to talk about it. Maybe I'll talk about it over on my TikTok at some point because I have this big overall what Picard is all about thing that I don't think anybody's thinking about. So that'll just give you a little teaser.
I need more hot takes.
teaser.
I need more hot takes from Wells, right up there with Hagrid is terrible. Like there's Picard is
Oh,
good
you're
at
calling me
something.
out like that. Don't do that. I hate Hagrid.
It's Hagrid.
I also hate Dobby. Come at me.
Oh no, I do too.
Come at me.
I do too. All right.
Anyway, now that we've had this lighthearted conversation about addiction, do we have any other final thoughts about?
I think I don't know if we really touched on the child parent aspect of it, because we do get that point of view in this episode too, where you have basically the child of two addicts and how it affects them, and in his recount how he's talking about how like they would just yell at me to bring them things, and then I just stopped, and then they only came out when they were starving basically. And there are children in the world right now who are living that reality, drug addicted parents. And I don't know how accurate this is. I don't know if there's Wells, back me up if you know any of like the actual literature, but like I think addiction can be genetic, where if like you are the child of addicts, you are more likely to become an addict yourself, whether it's a genetic component or like an environmental component where you're raised in that environment.
Always some combination of circumstances, including genetics. Like you know, you can have a family who like there's only one person who's an addict in there. Yeah. But you know,
there's some people who can use prescription pain meds or drink alcohol or do drugs and not become addicted. And then there's some people who do it one time and that's all it takes and they are addicted. And I know we've talked about this before, but the phenomenon of people who get bariatric surgery get something called transfer addiction, where they used to cope with food and kind of have that addiction to food, and then they turn to other, like they drink one alcoholic beverage and they are like immediately.
I have a family member and a friend who both had that happen. The family member is still around, thank God, but is going through, I think it's the 44th rehab that she's going through now.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then I have my dear friend Angel who went through that and is no longer with us because of it. Like, yes, this is like Sarah knows I've said this plenty of times before, but like bariatric surgery not to be taken lightly, and that is the reason, because I have these people in my life who have like all of this stuff has happened. You know, thankfully one of them's still around, but for how long at this point? Like we don't know. Like we don't know what's going to happen to her because she just keeps getting worse with it. She got arrested. She spent time in jail. Like,
oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like having to like deal with a felony charge now because of this, you
Yeah.
know? So yeah, it's bad. It's bad. So y'all be
Yeah.
careful considering the bariatric surgery out there. Just
Yeah.
again. I don't say it for no reason. I say it for very real, like
No, it's scary. That
experience
it's very
things.
scary because I know like that's something, you know, like people who choose that, you know, who's I've struggled with my weight. And that's I would never compare it one to one to like drug or alcohol addiction, but like addiction to food. Um
So there's
it's
not
its
the
own special
there's not
hell.
that like
Yeah.
chemical necessarily mind altering, but
Mhm.
your relationship with food is totally like a mind altering thing
Yeah.
and is
Yeah.
very psychological. So I don't think that it's as far apart that as you think it is, really, honestly.
Yeah.
Um,
But it's a thing
Chunky
like
Mermaid has a very valid question, and I'm not sure. Does that happen to people who treat their food addiction with GLP-1? I would say it could because the
I
food like is no longer the thing doing it for you, right,
I
Sarah?
can
Like
speak to that.
yeah,
So I have read studies about GLP-1s when people are on GLP-1s that it can actually help with other addictions like gambling or people are less inclined to drink. It quiets that noise in your head that is kind of like the food noise, so to speak, right?
so
Um,
it's not the same thing as like bariatric surgery taking the food thing not being there, but
It
it's kind of
makes you
cold
want to
turkey
eat
not
less.
there.
It's not
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
so, like, the bariatric surgery makes it physically impossible for you to eat more because
yeah.
your anatomy is now altered and you physically cannot eat as much. The
But it has it done
GLP-1s
like yeah,
right, the
okay.
GLP-1s work hormonally, and it there are some physiological mechanisms. It slows down your digestion, so you stay fuller physically longer, um, but it works hormonally, and however it works hormonally or whatever it does, it quiets that incessant need in your head. I'm not hungry right now, but what do I want to eat later? And should I eat now because I don't know if I'm gonna be at home later to eat later? Like that food noise. If you've never heard that term before, it's that constant, incessant thought of like,
Mhm.
when am I going to eat next? What am I going to eat next? How much am I going to
Mm.
eat? Where am I going to go? Like that constant all the time. Now I can't tell
Can't
you what it's
imagine.
like to come off the GLP-1. Check back in with me. I'll let you know if that ever happens. To come off of it because that's something I'm mentally preparing for.
Chunky
Um,
Mermaid does say that just newly on GLP-1. So look to
yeah,
Sarah. Look to Sarah as somebody who's been doing it for a while and she can
Mhm.
be
I
your North Star.
yeah, I'm very close to 100 pounds down, almost. I'm at like 99. But yeah, it's you still got to do the work. It makes it easier. I'm not gonna lie. It is such a great tool, and it takes such a huge mental load off of you. But you still have to do the work of like changing your habits. Like I am now okay with the idea of throwing food away if I'm done with it, or like if I'm at a restaurant take it to go or leave it like I don't know
That's so
because
European of you.
yeah, I was raised with the whole don't leave until you clear your
Yeah.
plate thing. And
Oh,
Mm.
now it's
same.
like, you know what? I'm full. I'm done with this. Like the whole they're starving children in Africa. You have to eat everything because there's kids starving somewhere. You have to get okay with like throwing it away, throwing that little last bit away or saving it for later or
Yeah.
something. Doing
Just
that
keep
work.
telling yourself no portion sizes in American restaurants, especially, are actual normal
Normal.
portion
No.
sizes.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
you're not meant to be eating all of it.
Yeah.
No.
So yeah, surprisingly, GLP-1s are kind of like the opposite, I would say, of bariatric surgery, where it helps with other forms of addiction too. And I have seen studies where it helps with even gambling addictions, where it's not like that physical thing of like alcohol or drugs or food.
Mhm.
It's that concept of like the addiction, the
Mhm.
gambling, the doing the thing. Um, so yeah, good conversation, good comments.
Yeah,
Mhm.
y'all out
Do
there.
we want to jump to the or I
Yep,
just looked at
Yeah.
time, so I just want to time check
yep. We're gonna
myself.
talk about it. We're not gonna talk about it long, but we are gonna talk about it. So if anybody feels triggered, if you've looked up Sam Nordquist, I did put his name in the comments at the very beginning, and you feel not comfortable sitting for this conversation, by all means, we love you still. Please come back next time. Yeah, but otherwise, we're just gonna just to follow up from last week's comment, you know.
And if I can give just a heads up, and as far as comments go, also to be mindful to not throw any sort of potentially triggering comments out there. As a delicate conversation. So I just want to throw that out there for my own. This is my own warning. Yeah. Anyway.
Okay. Sarah was the first person who was the person today that suggested we talk about it, or should we talk about it? And we spent a little time going back and forth on whether we should or not. And there were all very valid reasons for both. I think so. But I think ultimately, as I forget the person's name of the YouTube that you sent, Christina, the history person.
Oh yeah, it was amazing. In the robe that always says
Yeah.
yeah.
Not only
so
was the
that
history amazing, if you ever need to know about Matthew Shepard and what happened, this is a phenomenal, like, very succinct history of it.
but he did the work. So it's Brindolicious.
Yeah.
Brindo_licious.
He did the work. He number one tells you the history if you don't know the history behind everything, the Matthew Shepard stuff. That's what he talks about, but he talked about it in the context of Sam Nordquist, and at it being this, like, the history of it versus where we are now, and this was like 25 years ago, you know, versus now. And what struck me at the end, and what made me go, yeah, we really should say something, was if you have he said, if you have a platform, you need to be talking about this in some way. And it's like none of our experiences, whether you're in the queer community or not, are everybody's the experiences are not across the board the same, you know, even from trans man to trans man, non-binary person to non-binary person. There's such a vast difference to each individual person's experiences that there's infighting going on right now. Even, like, it's just, there's a lot going on. But the gist of it is that Sam Nordquist was a 24-year-old, I believe. I'm not looking at notes right now. I'm just like, this is what I've been hammered into my brain since it happened. 24-year-old trans man who lived in Minnesota, I believe.
Yep.
But traveled to New York State because he met a woman on some site and wanted to go meet her. And this was in November of last year. And he disappeared. And it turned out they found his body within the last week, y'all. So in a field. And it turns out he had been tortured for 2 months and killed. And that's all I'm going to say about the history, like what actually happened. I'm not talking about that stuff. It makes me angry when people like get on a platform and talk about the gruesome details, because that is not what we need to be talking about right now.
No.
But you do need the context so that you know what we're talking about. So that's the middle ground, basically. And the timing of his disappearance versus the election versus the inauguration, everything is just too spot on. You know, it's so spot on. And here's where I'm trying to form my thoughts as I'm talking, y'all. So I'm really sorry. But
no, you're great.
So Sarah and I, Christina, when you had to dip out, Sarah and I, we were just, I don't know how you even got on it, but we got on it and we were talking about just trying to keep everybody's spirits up and like we were like, safety, be careful, like fight the fight if you need to fight the fight, but be careful, be aware. And I mentioned that to me, there were two different things going on. This was last week's episode. To me, there are two things going on. On the one hand, you have the executive orders being signed every day, all day, with all this like heinous bullshit that's happening. And we don't know where a lot of that's going to land yet, because the courts are doing what the courts are trying to do, which is tie everything up. And we're trying to figure that out. It's terrifying that's still,
Yeah.
it's there. We're months down the road on a lot of stuff, and that's fine. But right now, and November, and you know, whenever all of this was happening, what it has done is it's emboldened people to hate
Yeah.
a lot harder.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that side of it in this moment right now is the thing that scares me personally more right now. Like like
Mhm.
not down the road. We because like again, it could get way shittier. We don't know. But like right now, I
Mhm.
move through the world in a way that like that shit scares the shit out of me right now. And
Mhm.
to give some examples, if you look at a picture of Sam Nordquist as a trans man, who looks fairly early in his transition, he presents very similarly to the way I present moving through the world. Um, and it doesn't matter whether he's a trans man, I'm a non-binary person. It doesn't matter. We're both larger people. We've got big chests. It's very obvious that we're not passing in any way, in a certain way, whatever way we want to be passing, right?
Mhm.
It's that those are the people, and the people that are not totally passing, but the people that are not like trying to, you have this whole level of queer person, non-binary person that's totally comfortable with their expression the way they are right now.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
but there's this middle ground where it's really scary
Yeah.
because you're
Mhm.
not passing, either way, basically.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, and I looked when I saw the picture of him on the news reports, I was like, holy shit. That's really terrifying to me. Like really, really terrifying.
Mhm.
I look just like wear backwards hats, like the way I express, like what I wear, everything exactly the same. I'm
Mhm.
not a person of color. Sam looks like uh, ethnic of some sort. I know I'm a white person, so I have the white privilege that Sam potentially didn't have. So I totally recognize that. Um, but otherwise, I felt very, very connected to him. Um, and I, I was saying earlier, I went to pick up dinner for me and Bonnie from a local mom and pop restaurant that I've gone into before. And there was just something about it. Like I walked in to go get it. There's all these people sitting down. There are all these Southern. I live in South Carolina. If anybody doesn't know at this point where I live,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but I went in and like I got looks when I walked in the door and immediately felt very uncomfortable and like kept my head down on my phone till I could pick my food up. Like it's that level of being affected by it. Um, and the fact I think Captain Swan said the way that media NYPD is reporting on it, labeling it as infuriating because they are refusing to call it a hate crime.
Mhm.
They're
And that's what
refusing
it is.
to because apparently a few people that did it are potentially of the LGBTQ community. And that's why they're like, no, it's not a hate crime.
Well, the one thing, well, there's many things I appreciated in Brindlelicious's TikTok, but that one thing he talked about was how this, oh gosh, why am I blanking on the name from 20 years ago?
Matthew
Why?
Shepard.
Matthew Shepard, is that his friends fought to get it labeled and tried as a hate crime. They had
Yes.
to fight for it to be labeled as a hate crime, and that really stuck with me.
Even when
How
his
important
killers
that is.
were like to the police using slurs.
And
Like
they
to the
still
police, and they still had to fight tooth and nail to make it happen.
Mhm. Oh,
It's 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 I don't have a word for how terrible it is, y'all. I do not have a word.
Mhm.
It is the first, and I'd like to say it's not, I like to say it's going to be the last, but I'm worried I'm worried at this point that it won't be the last. Um because people are just out there like we laugh at keyboard warriors all the time. I
They're real
I've had it
people
come
though.
through on me. I've had it come through on I run socials for Indivisible, you know, like I've had it come through on both and I'm like, haha, I'm gonna troll your troll comment with another troll or whatever. But like these are real people and they feel
Mhm.
very, very bold right now.
And they live
I
among us.
they do. And like something that I was thinking about, and this is if y'all have been around or you're not, like, but a couple of years ago, my account, luckily not my name, but got out there with libs of TikTok, and I am now on I live every day worried that somehow that video edit's going to resurface because they botched together a bunch of different things and spun. And it
They
was
spun it in a way that was just bullshit. Yeah.
such bullshit. And this was years ago when we were in a much different administration. And at that time, the amount of death threats, the amount of calls for stone, I have all the screenshots still, the amount of that. And to your point, Wells, and this is part of what I think putting a name to what my undercurrent of like being afraid of the boogeyman, but like it doesn't matter like whether it ever comes to fruition or not. That fear is so valid because not only is it for me, but it's also for my blood, for my child, and in a different way because there's a helplessness I feel because I'm putting them out into the world, and I know people say these things, and I saw your comment talking about classmates and kids, and I have a sickness in me on this because I'm not sure quite how to navigate it because it is absolutely there's two people that I'm worried about in my immediate space, and I gotta kind of it's a weird balancing act, and so that's my thing about. And sorry, I have a massive knot, and this is my stress way of getting through this conversation is just to work on my dreaded knot. So this is what I'm doing, but so
yeah, it's such a tricky space to be in. Because as somebody who like I said in text to the two of them, y'all, that like I love the idea of top surgery and never want to go on T. I don't like hair that much, so I don't like dealing with it. So no T in the future, but top surgery is a very real thing for me. But beyond that, the idea that I could be forced into out of fear or out of real law, whatever, into a gender expression that doesn't align with me it's off the table, y'all. Like I can't do it. I can't do it at this point. It's like that's the whole like what people aren't understanding about like, oh well, you could just play along, you could just do this. No, you can't. You can't do it because your mental health would suffer so greatly because of it. Like you can't do it. And I was expressing myself unknowingly, like not thinking about it that way before I put words to it or put a label to it or anything like that.
Yeah.
So the idea that like I would have to, even for safety purposes, have to change, like that would devastate me. Like that would kill my mental health completely. Would kill it. Would absolutely kill it.
It's incredibly dismissive for people to just say that. And I picture like, you know, the typical cishet white dude is the one that's saying that. And I would challenge them, okay, bitch, grow your hair out, Rapunzel style, take care of that shit every day and make that shit look presentable. No ratty ass ponytail hanging out in the back, like looking like a crusty basement dweller. Like maintain that every day and see how you fucking like it. You probably wouldn't. You would probably hate it. And like imagine forcing that on somebody else in a way that like it's so incredibly dismissive.
That's where the refusal comes in for me. Like that's where the like we're not going back in the closet. We're not doing that. We can't do that. But at the same time, it's scary as fuck out here, y'all. It's scary. Like it is scary. And I put on a really brave front a lot of the time, especially like I'm involved in like the activist work I'm involved in now. I'm trying to do everything I can possibly do. And I'm frequently burning myself out, but that's another story. But like, I can't go back. I can't do that. You know?
It really does tie into what we talked about last week with people being more emboldened in their hatred. And again, like I don't recommend you fight the fight online with keyboard warriors because that's an endless battle you will never win. It will drain your energy. It's not worth it. But remember, there are people behind those profiles and they exist among us and they move among us and they might be people you are related to and you don't even know it. So I think it's just important to be very aware and always, always, always be safe. But if you have a social privilege, um, something I'm trying to do is use that to your advantage. If it's calling
Mhm.
people out, if it's standing up for people, um, don't let this hatefulness permeate even more. Don't let these people feel so fucking comfortable being so hateful in the open. They
Mhm.
need to be embarrassed and ashamed
Mhm.
and take their
Mhm.
hateful fucking ways back to the closet. They go back to the closet.
Yeah.
They can
Mhm.
because they've thought this way their entire fucking life. They've just been too ashamed to say anything about it, and now they feel more comfortable. It's coming out of the woodwork, and they need to go back in the closet.
Yeah. I will
What's
offer
so oh,
go
sorry, go.
no, I was
No,
about to turn it, so Christina, go.
the one thing I'd say on this is what, and this is very Janet Jackson to me, is like something that really I've had to find my boundary line with is because I think I can acknowledge that a lot of times when people are so emboldened to be so hateful, it is often tied to a repression of something of their own or something that they're just never willing to look at and hold the mirror up to themselves, right? So here's where I learned, thank you, therapy, that's not my job to hold space for that because there are other people who have held their mirror up and dealt with their bigotry or dealt with whatever was repressed and they've overcome it. So it's not my job to give grace for those people. And this is like on a small scale, but it's just we have such a like cesspool of cis white men particularly that are just in all the emboldened hate at this point. And I just wonder, had 20, 30, 40 years ago, when these people were growing up, there been a little bit more acceptance and less indoctrination, how much different would this have been? Like, how much of this is environmental and kind of gone through that kind of conditioning? And I don't know, I just think about it. And then that gives me hope of like, well, we're trying very hard to break that cycle now. So as this generation's growing up, hopefully that now in 20, 30 years into like the conversation we've had before about, oh gosh, what is it? The extinction boom? That
Yeah,
maybe this is
extinction burst.
hopefully
Burst,
that
yeah.
extinction burst because this wave of kids growing up now, it's just so much more informed than it's ever been before. And I just can only hope that,
It's almost like
the change
death
will come with
rattles.
it.
I like to call it death
Yep.
rattles because
Ooh,
that
that's a good one.
sounds more visceral. I don't know, but yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
Agree.
But that's my wonderful thing. But yeah.
I was just gonna say, so number one, anybody out there, Amanda and Michelle have both sent Amanda Tapping and Michelle Hurd, sorry, like I'm using first names here.
Yeah.
Have both sent incredible messages. I told you about Michelle's, but Amanda continues
Mhm.
to send messages talking about the pendulum swing
Mhm.
and how she can't not believe that it's going to swing back. And
Mhm.
that's true. That's the same as the extinction burst theory or the death rattle, if you will, or whatever. But just know, y'all, like all our favorite people are here for us. Like they are here for
Mhm.
us. 100%. I can't express that more. And the other thing I wanted to say, just in finishing this out, was I had a whole weekend of activist protest stuff happen in Greenville, and this Greenville, South Carolina. Hopefully, y'all still don't know how to find my house. But like Greenville, South Carolina, I am in Lindsey Graham country. If you did not know yet,
Oh
I
yeah.
am in the lion's den. Let me tell you. And so there were two big protests that happened this weekend. The first one was on Sunday. Here, it was a local thing. The one on Monday, on President's Day, it was called No Kings, like because
Oh, yeah.
President's Day. And it was nationwide at all the capitals, but also other bigger cities, like if people couldn't get to the capitals. So both of those happened here. And I was able to go to the Sunday one. I had a friend emergency on Monday, but I
Yeah.
have since received a ton of video because I run the social media, so I've seen everything. Firstly, everybody that yelled at us in an angry way, I bet you can guess the demographic.
No,
I actually, Sarah, I chested up to a dude on Sunday. A lot of fun.
Proud of you.
Dude was like, he split the crowd, and he just happened to walk right past me, and he just kept going, "Mega, mega," and it's this white dude or whatever, and he was
Shocking.
literally a foot taller than me. And I just like, I chested up to him with like the most shit-eating grin I could possibly put on my face. And like, he didn't know what to do with it. Like,
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
he just stopped talking. He just stopped talking
that's the thing.
because he couldn't
These-
handle it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like they're so emboldened, but they don't know what the fuck to do when they're being checked.
Yeah.
And they clam up.
Who's
like,
this
check them.
chihuahua that's checking me right now? Like, what? 'Cause
Shame
I'm,
them.
like, literally,
Shame them back in the fucking closet
Yeah.
where they
Yeah.
belong.
So
Shame them, make them feel horrible.
as Mara says, activation, seat shaking mode. Yes, Mara.
Yeah.
Yes. Shake that seat. But what was more heartening was the numbers that showed up in this area. Because I saw stuff from New York, and there are thousands and thousands of people. I'm like, of course it's New York. It's like blue trifecta state. It's whatever it is. But hundreds of people showed up in Greenville. Hundreds.
Which is significant.
It's incredibly significant. It's so significant. And the number of people that drove by honking in approval and giving thumbs up was more than I've ever seen. I've been to protests in the past here before, and it's very disheartening because you're just like, look at me and my sign. Like, but this is the first time where it's like, oh no, like there are a lot of them out there that actually are not happy right now. So I just would encourage everyone on the back of this really terrifying conversation to just keep going, keep whatever you're doing, even if just existing and being joyful. That is resistance. That is 100% resistance. Make your art, dance your dances, sing your songs,
Have your blue hair, bitch.
have your blue, do whatever you need, but like keep on keeping on, because there are more people out there, even in Lindsey Graham country, than you think there are, that are real angry about what's happening right now. So that's my like trying to turn this conversation around a little bit.
Yeah.
I feel like that should have been a good close the iris kind of like send off. Like that was a good.
I'll close I think I closed it last week, but I'll close it again on this, because here's Wells coming at you from, I just got a notification through right when I put my hand on the end stream. What do we have? What do we have next week though? While we're here, we have Prodigy. So come hang out with us for Prodigy. But I will end the stream now, and I will close the iris with saying, this is Wells coming at you from Lindsey Graham country. There are a lot of people out there. We're fighting the good fight. But I am going to ask you, as I close the iris, because I'm a proper Southerner, how's your mama and them?